I love it.
But she did YOLO, year ever.
I love it.
Yeah,
Ooh.
no, that makes sense.
Wait, isn't that what YOLO stands for? Year of lives. Wait, no. You only live one year ever.
Once.
Oh, okay.
Oh my goodness. This is Michelle. That's Elizabeth.
Whoops.
I'm Matt, and this is Wedding and Event Insider.
What does it mean for the wedding and event industry?
I don't care what situation you're in, you can do something simple.
I gotta say, I actually still love weddings.
Welcome back to Wedding and Event Insider, to all those podcast lovers that love wedding and events and that know of us. Those that are just tuning in for the first time, welcome. We are excited that you get to learn all kinds of fun stuff. We're also joined here by our co-producers, Paul Cram and Michael Sherry Jr., here at the Sherry Brothers Studio, powered by Complete Wedding and Events. So we've got an awesome topic today. That topic happens as soon as this screen pops back on. Yes, it does.
It is hard memorizing, Matt.
Hey,
We've
I
been
can't
bouncing
memorize
around on a
everything
lot of
that's
different
going
things that
on,
we've
but
been
we
talking
are
about.
excited for this topic. It's making a big impact in our industry. And no, it's not what you're thinking. It is not more pandemic-related topics. However, not that is not the topic, that this topic is very important in the wake of the pandemic, I think. So a lot of things are happening as far as pricing and costs for wedding and events, and that is a huge layer that's adding on to these events. So we want to offer some advice, talk today a little bit about strategically how to avoid certain costs and increases while sharing some ways that you can also save a little bit more money. So we should set the stage a little here with what we are seeing in current events and how they may be impacting the wedding industry and the budget bottom line. Elizabeth, what do you think?
Well, I think it's something that people are experiencing every day when they drive down the street and they see the gas prices and they, go to their grocery store and look at their bill and it's X amount of dollars more than they normally spend. But in the event industry, it's no different. We're seeing these types of increases for catering and labor. And I know I'll let you guys kind of speak more to the labor side, but for the catering side, I've heard a number of 20 to 33% increases on food costs across the board. And it's a clause in...
That's insane.
It is insane. It's a clause in a contract that I used to have. And I always looked at being like, I hope I never have to activate this clause, because what an uncomfortable conversation this would be with clients. Because the clause is something like, 60 days before your wedding, we have the right to increase food costs based on what market is doing, blah, blah, blah. And never had to. So over 10 years of experience, never had to activate that clause. And guess what? It is happening for everyone right now. They are being activated and they have up until a certain day to do it. Or if your contract doesn't say a day, they could do it an hour before your wedding.
Yeah, we have a bit of a perfect storm that is brewing currently. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in the economy that we can't really avoid as far as some price increases. I mean, we have labor shortages. We have supply chain issues. We have fuel issues that are going on. We have a giant addition into the money supply that is creating inflation. If you're a farmer, if you are making a product, if you're making a soundboard, if you're cutting flowers or you're growing flowers, all of that is increased 30%.
And the cost gets passed down to the client, unfortunately. And there's no winners in this, but the loser is the client, because they're the ones who have to bear a lot of this financial burden.
Yeah. But there are options.
There
you can
are
find
options.
value where value is important.
Yeah, it's not all dire.
No, it's not. But I think it's interesting to see that the media is actually interested in, and Elizabeth, they've actually been looking at you as a resource here in the Twin Cities. I know it was even the StarTribune and even the Jason Show.
Because I think people leave money on the table when they don't need to.
Absolutely. Hey, I researched your wedding,
Yeah.
actually.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. I got.
Can you share some of that? How was it? Was it
Yeah.
fun? And tell us what you got to do.
Well, there is definitely, I'm going to just give a nod to Paul here. There's a PR expert that got me in the right places at the right time to have these conversations. But these conversations did need to be had, and our industry has been put under a microscope. And truthfully, I think vendors have been victimized a little bit to look like the villain, and they're not the villain. It is truly a burden that they're getting. So I do want to mention that vendors are here to work with you. They are a resource with you. So, on my interviews with the StarTribune and Jason Show, I did tee up a little bit of that, but I would have loved to elaborate saying, let's all work together to come to a conclusion to how we can help you. I think vendors want that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But there's creative ways to make your wedding happen and still have your vision. And one of the ones I was sharing with Jason, and I think a lot of you might already know this, but if you're in the beginning stages of the planning and you're just about to go look out at venues and think about wedding dates, think about it. If you are looking for a Saturday in the summer, be ready to spend a couple more $1,000s than you would if you're looking at a Sunday in the summer, or heck, I'll even say a Saturday in the winter. So thousands of dollars could be saved right there.
Your venue choice.
And your venue choice alone.
You could easily spend $7,000 to $10,000 just to rent your venue, and then you have to start over with maybe chair rentals. You have to start over with catering. I mean, there are other options. There are amazing hotel facilities and convention facilities in the Twin Cities where they just have a $6,000 food and beverage minimum and no rental whatsoever.
Right. Knowing
Well,
what your options are. Yep.
And something that I thought was really interesting as we were preparing for the Jason show was, we were looking around at some of the local celebrities and things like that, and where they got married. You, as a couple, you could get married in these really extravagant, beautiful locations. Wasn't it the Landmark Center where Cisco?
Yeah. So Cisco's wedding was here before the pandemic. It was 2018 or 2017 or something like that. But yeah, the Landmark Center. I've hosted weddings at Nicollet Island Pavilion. Even the Guthrie had some. Gosh, where else am I blanking? There are many where celebrities have gotten married, local celebrities, even, other ones. But yeah, you can have those venues if you want to. Just be strategic about it. Do you have to go all out like they probably did? Not necessarily. But sometimes those venues that maybe have a higher rental, there's a reason why. And it's because they come as a package. They already have a setting. Maybe they come with the Chiavari chairs that you would have rented for $10 a piece. Right. Maybe they already have a decor collection that you can access and tap into where other venues don't. So I think when you compare apples to apples just on rental, you can't. And so I really advise you to look at other columns in your Excel spreadsheet to be like, all right, let's really balance this out. But there are ways just to save on day alone and time of year. And if you're open to that, I think that that's huge. And, going along this line too is talking a little bit more about your guest list. Yes, you could cut your list dramatically. And of course, that's going to save you money. But think about the venues that hold up to 400, 500 people. There's not many, and they're going to charge you because they know that there's not that many out there. Not that you're going to have a 400 or 500 person wedding. But if you could have one of those great mini weddings, the amount of venues that you can access, it's endless. So you really can be strategic in choosing a location and help with price.
You can rent out one of the awesome restaurants in the downtown's areas.
Yeah.
Are you still seeing a lot of that, of like larger weddings of 400? I feel like after the last crash of the housing market, that was a big thing. The barn, the 300 person wedding.
I think the average of 250 has gone down to about 110, and a larger wedding now is 150 to 170. And we do have events that are larger than that and much larger than that. Especially a lot of this outside the 494, 694 loop, when we've got a lot of barn and farm venues and stuff like that where they can have a large capacity. Yeah. You are seeing those, but I'd say the average is probably about 100 to 120.
Yeah, any good trend that came out of the pandemic, it might be that.
Yes.
Which is thousands of dollars.
Right. You want to go?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, actually, let's tee up. We'll take care of this in just a second, but we have a message from our sponsor, and we'll let you listen to that because it's amazing.
Complete Weddings made the process super easy. We were able to get online whenever and make payments. And since I had everything booked all at once and had a package deal, I put a deposit down and didn't have to worry about it for months. We had a very smooth day because we had all of our photography, videography, DJ, photo booth, everything was all from the same company.
And knowing that we didn't have to worry about everything that Complete provided, because we had complete confidence that they would come through and everything, was great, and it really improved our wedding day.
Saving money, saving cash, saving green, and doing things better, and finding value in the services and products that you get for your event. Some suggestions, I guess.
Well, and we should probably say too, you're going to spend money. Right. Yes, Michael and I were able to save a bunch of money in our wedding for a different couple of reasons, but we still spent money. So you have to know that you're going to spend some money if you want to have a somewhat traditional looking, feeling wedding with 100 guests. You can't take 100 people to McDonald's and make that a cheap ticket. So
can I back up one point? How mad are you if you got married 15 years ago and had to invite 300 guests because you thought you were like,
it costs the same as it does today. Yeah. For 110.
Probably. That's
sorry, that was in my head.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. But there's ways to do it strategically. And so something I'd love to hear from both of you is you guys actually come from, I'll call it different sides of the fence of saving money. Whereas Michelle, you are a sole entrepreneur and you are the photographer that people hire. Whereas Matt, if somebody were looking for a photography service through your company, you don't necessarily provide them with a photographer right away. So it's a contracting service. So I guess there's differences and there's ways to save, but what do you think? I mean, this, not to get controversial between you two, heaven forbid, but to maybe even say what people should look for depending on who they are as an individual and what service would be good for them to go through. So Michelle, do you want to maybe start this off?
Yes. I mean, sometimes too, when you go with a solo entrepreneur, that means that I don't have a team. I'm not, relying on other people. I am going to be the photographer that is going to service the day. Is a little bit different than Matt's company where he's got, a whole team of photographers, to service the day. But when a solo entrepreneur, there's time, expertise, personal service that you're going to get. I will be there to service, that person's going to be there to service your day. They can also customize the wedding in different ways to this and talk about what's your priority and know what that is and spend and focus time specifically on that and cater to what you need. I mean, as far as a cost saving tip, I would probably say with my type of services is like the 6-hour package versus the 8-hour package and what we can put into that time frame, being that first look all the way to the first special dances. But having that conversation and really knowing exactly what those priorities are, what you want for the pictures. Is it going to be the pictures you hang up on the wall, or are you wanting more of the just the documentary of the day and what's happening in the day? So there's just a very custom palette that you can do. But I'm going to turn it over to Matt too, because your services are great too. There's all kinds of clients for all kinds of services, and we have found that we can fit.
There's enough room in the sandbox.
Yeah. And I think it depends on, what your values are, what kind of budget that you have. There are trade-offs, as far as going from, on single operator entrepreneurs and companies like myself that can scale. There's a supply and demand issue, because you can choose from 15 photographers. My price is going to be probably about a third less than it's going to be for Michelle. Both of them are going to be really great photographers, but some of the trade-offs are, Michelle. Michelle can go to dinner with you. Michelle, you can call all the time.
You're booking Michelle.
You're booking Michelle. With us, you're booking Complete Weddings and Events. You're booking, a company that myself and my brother Mike own, and we care deeply, but we're your contact, and we're the ones that are going to help you out through a lot of that process. And you're going to work with that photographer personally, but not until closer to the event, and there's a reason for those cost savings. And one of the other drawbacks, not say drawbacks, but kind of give and takes you have to think about is, if you're going with a company that is scaling, how well do they scale? Right. I mean, because not every entrepreneur is the same. Not every scalable business is the same, in the industry.
More money, more problems.
Yeah. So you want to make sure that you are meeting with those companies. You're looking at their reputation. You're getting a feel for the ethics of that company and how well they produce. Can they scale and produce really well, or
what do you
are you
mean
running
when you
a
say
risk?
Scale? Like pretend I know nothing.
Yeah, that's a buzzword, so I apologize. What I mean to everybody listening is by scaling means that I can do multiple events in an evening, right? So I can do maybe 5 or 15 DJ events rather than one. I can do 10 or 12 photography events rather than one because we have a team, we have our backups, we can put very specific packages together for clients. So you can save a lot of money by doing that. You just need to make sure that you're going through a good company. Obviously, I'm biased and think we have great company,
Right.
but and there's other good companies out there.
And that's a key term, actually, I'll say, is that keep that in mind for not just the vendors or the services that you guys provide, but venues are that way. Venues sometimes can do multiple weddings in one day.
Yep.
Caterers especially can do that.
Yes.
Some of them are just small enough caterer where they focus on one per day. So really think about that. Even ask that question, because I think that that's interesting to know. Will there be other weddings happening in the venue that day? I will say hotels are usually more likely to do this than others if they have the size and space.
Well, one real quick thing, Matt, about what you were saying is very interesting. When you're looking at a company that's a multi-service operator and researching that company, looking at their reputation, figuring out what their culture is behind the team that they're going to assemble for you, essentially. That's what we call it as a team. Because when you're researching Michelle, you're meeting with Michelle, you're going to be booking Michelle. So that kind of culture, what the culture is because you're booking Michelle. The underlying culture behind a company that has multiple systems and is doing multiple events, it's not always as easy to see that. And if you have something that doesn't have a good culture, it's harder to execute, though. That's where you run into issues. It's harder to see that when you're a multi-service operator versus when I know Michelle.
You can see Michelle's passion.
Well, and exactly. So to take this to a different level here, we were talking a little bit before the show, and I love this, is that sometimes you get what you pay for. So let's start there.
Yep, that's
so
true.
if you find somebody who just started their wedding business that summer, now, it's not to say that they're not probably really great or won't be the next greatest thing, but you are getting them in what I'll call a guinea pig year. That's the same thing with venues. Sometimes the same thing with caterers, is that they're just a growing company.
Limited experience.
Exactly. So there is something about established, and again, you get what you're paid for. So if an established company has a little bit of a higher rate, or you're willing to be that guinea pig and go on this journey with them, and sometimes it works out perfectly. You were the first person to get married at XYZ venue. Awesome. But you're going to pay XYZ pricing for the risk and gamble that maybe it wouldn't go so great. Or they're not as well as established to add all these cool elements like leftover decor from couples that help embellish your day.
I think it's important if you're going to be the guinea pig, try to get the guinea pig price. I think that's the key, right? Don't you fall in love with a beautiful place because it's brand new and the price is so much, but then they have no idea how to run it. So if you're going to be the guinea pig, get that guinea pig pricing.
Because we're all chuckling because we've all worked those first events, and there's oh my goodness, there's roadblocks all over that just you don't experience unless it's the first time that they've had an event coming through. So
and not knocking a new venue that's built.
not at all.
But I will say it's always kind of exciting when it's like, well, it looks like construction wasn't finished on our parking lot, and we have nowhere to park the cars today.
I'm sorry, it's in the view of the photography.
Or just being a professional as far as audio in a ceremony and working with officiants that are friends, have no idea how that works, and you are literally sitting there giving them a lesson on how the traditional event should go, what your cues should be. That's a lot of extra time. What a microphone is, how to use it properly. Well,
that's kind of what I love about our group, though, the Twin Cities Wedding and Event Professionals, is that the vendors get to know each other and they help each other. So if they get into that experience, you will find most often professional vendors are going to work together to make the day as best as it can be. So that part of it I am so thankful for, because no matter where you are, if it's the first time this venue's had an event or it's their 100th event and they're pros at it, all the vendors, in my experience, it's just like we just pick it all up, try to make that event the best it can be for that person's day. So,
and Liz, we were talking a little bit about food before we actually started the podcast and that expense, which is wild because you were just saying that the difference in the kinds of food are kind of evening out as far as expense. Because I just got married about 3 weeks ago, and we had our tasting probably 2.5 months ago, and we decided, like chicken is maybe $25 a plate. Beef was $37 a plate, or we could do beef and chicken for $40.
Who knows?
Hopefully. But that's the rough average of kind of what it was. But you said you're seeing that like chicken and beef are starting to even out.
It's interesting to experience this in a way where, if we think about what's going to be in the future and what we're going to experience in that way, I can't say that these prices that you're experiencing are going to be really high. And I can't say that chicken's always going to maybe be the same price as beef, because it is right now. There was a whole, what was it? Some sort of chicken flu, something?
A lot of chickens had to go.
More of the perfect storm.
More of that. Exactly. There was a bad crop on coffee. Like if you're paying more for your coffee, there's a bad crop on it. It's not because of the pandemic. So there's certain things where it's like, it's just because of the season, and that happens, and that would have happened outside of a supply chain or pandemic. But I'm not going to say that catering prices are always going to stay this high and keep on increasing. But what I will say is that this time is unique, because you might show up to your wedding day and tried Brussels sprouts at your tasting, and Brussels sprouts are not on your plate. that could happen. And it's something where hopefully your caterer is being honest with you about it, but supply chain is supply chain, and they're going to do what they can to make sure that that happens. And usually people who have a robust supply chain and a bigger portfolio as far as a caterer can get those supplies, but not to get too much in the weeds, but it is a very unique time for catering. And I think as a client, you need to be ready for it. It's not exactly what you tasted 2.5 months before your wedding.
Get ready to tread water a little bit.
Yeah.
If I may actually piggyback on that, fun fact for anybody here or anyone listening, I have a background. I used to work in a flower shop. Mm-hmm. And actually even more recently, I helped one of the vendors, Tammy with Studio B Floral, do a wedding. This was a year ago now, but one thing that I really learned when I was working in the flower shop was the supply chain. And here's a pro tip. If you want to get the most amazing flowers ever, and you have a florist that you trust, let the florist pick everything. Mm-hmm. Just give them a little bit of a guide, tell them kind of your vibe, and let them run.
Don't say I have to have peonies.
Don't say I must have
September.
Peonies in September.
Yep.
Yes. And I always left the shop in awe of the creations that the florist would make when she had free reign. Mm-hmm. And that supply chain thing was insane because I remember there was a wedding and the bride was like, I must have sunflowers. Mm-hmm. And it was December.
Yes.
And it's like, yep, those are growing somewhere. Yeah. Those are growing somewhere in the world.
Somewhere.
Yep. How about just the one sunflower and then we'll help you with the rest? Because absolutely. If you could be creative, and that's that thing that I think, Paul, just the message across the board we want to say is trust your vendors. Mm-hmm. Really just give them that vision and trust them to do what they do best and to say, hey, this is my budget. I can't tell you how many times I loved an email that said, hi, my name is so-and-so, and it gave me all the details. And at the end of it, it says, my budget's this. Is that doable? Now, I did get the emails that were quite laughable. Yes, I literally chuckled when I was just like, right. You cannot take, and I will reference McDonald's again, you cannot take 200 people to McDonald's for that price, but you think you can come here and have that meal. So use your best judgment, but I did appreciate a budget. I think we all probably do when people are upfront about their costs.
And I think it is just saying it again. When you go to the vendors, they are professionals. They've been doing these events over and over and over again. They can see where they can, if you give them a little bit of that freedom, like you talked about, Paul, and then just asking them, giving them, it's like, give me this is what I want to spend, but tell me how you can make this beautiful for me and what are my options. And, I think gone are the days where we would go to Pinterest and be like, oh my goodness, these elaborate things, I want this. And it's like, the price tag on that is going to be, that education piece of this is what the price tag is for.
Or that wasn't from a real wedding.
Yes, and that was a stage. Oh my gosh, so many times. I'd be like, that
something
was
kind of similar but way different.
Yeah. I'm like, that was that was not even a wedding day, and that's the picture you're seeing. So yes. Yeah. We can do those things, but we got to talk about them beforehand. So yeah, Pinterest and we love-hate relationship, but I don't see us doing that much as where they're coming in with the Pinterest pictures and saying,
I think it's hard for clients to not realize what a styled shoot is, or when they're styled shoots. I think in the industry we can see it.
We're so good at doing style shoots.
We're so good at it.
Yeah, and I guess to go back to 101, what we're talking about with a styled shoot for the new audience that's listening is that those pictures that you look at that look perfectly set, and it's like, oh, somebody's wedding was so gorgeous. That wasn't somebody's wedding. That was vendors showcasing the best that they can do and how they do it and working together. And there was not an actual wedding taking place, meaning there wasn't 200 guests trampling over vines that were on your floor.
Multiple takes.
Multiple times. There's just all those types of things where you see that it looks beautiful.
We had models.
Yeah. And so
dressed up.
Wait, you mean they actually took a 12-hour day of photographing just that couple? That's all they did?
Yeah.
What? No,
1 hour. Everybody did a lot of work for 1 hour.
Everybody does work all day, and then they shoot for about an hour.
Yes. But really what that does to you is that could just sit as a template, but don't think that that's the exact vision or how it could go. And then
inspiration.
Exactly. Inspiration, because what that's going to do is it's going to add your numbers up. So as we talk about saving budget, the more and more of those wedding style shoots that you look at, your expectations get set higher. And let me tell you this, your guests won't notice. Your guests won't. I'm so sorry to tell you this. If it's a small thing, guests won't notice it, so you shouldn't care either. It just is. Certain things are nice and they add nice touches, but at the end of the day, what do they remember?
Liz, what do you think is going to happen in the future? Well, I mean, do you think that? Do you think prices will calm down? Do you think prices will go down over time? Do you think, maybe they'll stay the same and there'll be a smaller rate of increase? Or, I don't.
It's hard to say that what you're paying right now for food is ever going to go back.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a decrease in food per se in menu catering. Like once it's increased,
supply.
Once it's increased, I do feel like it's staying. Now this is it's unprecedented, I will tell you. So that maybe there will be a little bit of that. The thing that I can definitely say is not going down, and this is where you guys are experts, is labor.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going down.
Labor is tough to find, and it's expensive to pay, and that's going to keep going. So, well, hopefully this information has been very helpful to our listeners. There's some really great tips in there, and I think we should do a couple of more segments.
Yeah.
There's some
We could
other
talk about this
ideas that we really could.
We can get into nitty gritties.
Yeah. So hopefully this is helping those couples getting married here in the near future and next summer and this summer even. I want to thank Michelle. I want to thank Elizabeth as well. Our producers, Paul and Michael Jr. This has been awesome. If you like this episode, make sure you please go and subscribe right now. You can also log into tcwep.com for additional information. I am Matthew Sherry signing off. Quoting Pink, money, it's a gas.
Pink Floyd. That's okay. I didn't know what YOLO was.
Did
you really screw up a Pink Floyd quote?
I did, because I read it. Wow. But I sang the song. Like I gave the same cadence.
Anything on the teleprompter.
Money, it's a gas. But my first day.